Wanted to do another quick video on another subwoofer. This time it's the PPI Pro 128. It came in two versions, the 128 and the 124. Um, they were not the ones used in the Gates Bronco. Those were the 10-inch. But the 128 is the 8 ohm and the 124 is a 4 ohm. This one, unfortunately, is no longer working, which you'll see a lot with these subs. Um, I think maybe they were overpowered a lot, but I think there's other issues. My suspicion is the ferro fluid is a problem, but it's not like this thing seized. It's you know it's just I think the coil rubbed and shorted, and it's reading open now. But since I have this one out, I have another one. I had two of them going. Really awesome sounding subs, um, extremely accurate, very distinct sound. I remember when these came out, I was just blown away by the design. A few things on it is the cone is a carbon fiber with Nomex honeycomb, and on the other side there's another layer of carbon fiber, and it's for the time in the 90s, carbon fiber was not very common whatsoever, and you can see it's kind of rough, and these really varied. I mean, to get the other one I have has a pattern fairly similar to this, but they varied quite a bit because carbon fiber was not an exact science at the time, and the texture and what it looked like varied quite a bit. So you'll see different sets of these, and they'll have a different look to them. Not too dissimilar from each other, where they look, I think, too bad next to each other, but you get up close and there's some real distinct patterns in it. Um, one interesting feature is the gasket is actually an aluminum ring, and it's bolted down everywhere. Just typical of PPI, just way overdone. But I mean, these things were $4.99 MSRP, so you expect things to be done and overdone. That's what's kind of so disappointing, that these are quite often blown. Is that it's just such a unique sub, and they put so much engineering into this thing. But I guess if you're out there on the fringes of technology, you can make mistakes real easy. So that's the front, and then we'll go ahead and flip it to the back. It's really heavy subwoofer. All right, there we go. And you can see just a monster motor on the back, and then the precision power on the back into this casting, and then the really beefy cast aluminum frame. One thing that's interesting, and I'll do a comparison, I'll put that Orion XTR next to it just to show you kind of, oh, the magnet's pulling it in, if I can, the height difference. I mean, it's, for what a massive sub it is, it's extremely shallow. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it has a flat cone, whereas almost every other sub has a conical cone. The reason for that is that's what gives paper pulp and the different polymers or plastics of like the JL and the kicker comp and the gives them their strength. And that was kind of the hurdle to having a flat piston sub, was to have a material that didn't flex. And obviously carbon fiber is that's gonna get it for you. So I would have thought like some of the subs, like the Eclipse, they had some aluminums. Luma Pro had aluminum. Eclipse had a titanium cone subwoofer. I would think that those would be strong enough to do flat. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, maybe they were thinking when they designed it that people expect a sub to look a certain way and be dished and be So I think that might be part of it, but very very few subs look like this or have a flat cone. I'm gonna flip it up here so you can see the massive lug on this magnet. It's just it's really big. I would say it's about 10 inches in diameter. Yeah, it's, you know what, it's going to be smaller because there's about, on either side, I would say 2 inches, with overall this thing's like 13 inches if you consider the gasket and the frame. So, or the basket. So, you know, subtract 4 from the 9, you know, 5. So, oh, that can't be right. It's bigger than that. I don't know. I'll have to get out a tape measure. And measure that real quick, because I kind of want to know. Okay. I don't want to put bogus information out there. I like to keep things as accurate as possible. So it's 8 inches, and then just has this massive vented pull piece, and you can see it's also drilled for venting. See if I can get light in there. It looks like just the one, so that's kind of interesting. Just the one portion that's drilled out, and then the screen, and then they have this below it, part of the motor assembly that's actually turned on the lathe. You can see, this camera's not very good, but you can actually see the machine marks on this, which is kind of interesting. It actually gives it a really nice look in person. But with that flat cone, I don't think too many people were reverse mounting this. Here you've got the I don't know if they're gold plated. They kind of appear to be, but they could just be solid brass. But a pair of extremely nice push terminals, which at the time, I mean, other subs had them. It wasn't like this was the first or anything, but it was only on the higher end subs. You were still seeing the Spade Connect terminals on most subwoofers at the time. And then it had a interesting spider, if I can get a shot of that. There's actually another one underneath it that's it's like reversed. So they had like dual spiders, one like this facing up, another one underneath facing the other way to keep it linear. Then you have you can see it says 8 ohm on it, and then actually handwritten 8.6 ohm on the voice coil. So that's about it. This was this is one of my favorite set of subs. I always wanted a pair. I found a pair for a decent price. I bought them. I ran them for about 6 months before this one went. One of the mistakes I made was everybody's like, oh, they want tons of power. You're gonna want to feed it lots and lots of power. So I had a pair of these hooked up to a 2350. Now I didn't have like the gain all the way up, so it wasn't like I was sending 700 watts a sub. But obviously, I don't know. Could have been too much. I don't know. They sounded great, and I figure they lasted that long, so I'm not so sure that it was overpowering necessarily, but something went wrong. And it's actually the only sub I've ever blown other than a Eclipse aluminum. I bought those back in the 90s when they first came out, and I blew 3 of them like right in a row. And that actually was because the epoxy they used to attach the voice coil to the cone was faulty. So then they replaced them every time, and then the 3, and then that happened within having them for a month or two, and then after that I had them for another 2-3 years running them daily and never had another problem. But those are the only subs I've ever actually had let go on me. But anyway, hope you found it interesting. These subs were kind of famous because of the being in the Gates vehicle and having the world record. But I mean, really, if you cram 32 1400 watt amplifiers and 64 subs into anything, it's going to get loud. So it's not like these are amazingly efficient, and that's they put out huge SPL. I mean, they're capable subwoofers, but it's just there was just so many crammed in there. It was really a marketing deal with Alma Gates and PPI. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and leave comments if you know anything, maybe why these subs were so faulty. Were they unable to be kept linear in the magnet gap, or was it the ferrofluid, or was the voice coil poor design? I'm not really sure what the answer is. Unfortunately, when these do go, there's really little to nothing you can do to fix them. So that's it.